Making headlines tonight. The construction site for the ship repair workshop and restoration port at Ream Naval Base in Sihanouk was officially opened by the Minister of National Defence of Cambodia, Deputy Prime Minister Thia Ban, and the Chinese Ambassador to Cambodia, Wang Wingting. The Chinese Ambassador to Cambodia, Wang Wingting, has said that China has its own traditions and culture and does not want to rule over any other country, as good leadership in its own country and people enough for the country's ambitions. Democratic-led US House of Representatives Select Committee will attempt to reverse Republicans' efforts to downplay or deny the violence of Trump loyalists who stormed the Capitol in and failed to bid to prevent Joe Biden from becoming president. November 8th midterm elections will determine which party controls Congress for the next 2 years. Taiwan's top trading negotiator appealed to the United States not to forget that the island wants a free trade deal, but understands this will not happen immediately and is willing to make other arrangements first as the building blocks. And finally, World Oceans Day on 8th of June, an international event is raise awareness over the impact of human actions on the oceans. Many countries are doing their part to help clean and restore the oceans to their former glory. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Anthony Ellis. The construction site for the ship repair workshop and restoration port of Ream Naval Base in Sihanouk Province was officially opened by the Minister of National Defence of Cambodia, Deputy Prime Minister Thia Ban, and the Chinese Ambassador to Cambodia, Wang Wingting, this Wednesday morning. The ceremony was also attended by dignitaries from various embassies in the Kingdom of Cambodia and many other guests.
The groundbreaking ceremony construction project for dry dock, pier, and slipway rehabilitation in the Modernization Center of Ream Naval Base under grant aid from the People's Republic of China was officially inaugurated by the Minister of National Defense of Cambodia, Deputy Prime Minister Thia Ban, and the Chinese Ambassador to Cambodia, Wang Wingting, this Wednesday morning. The ceremony was also attended by dignitaries from various embassies in the Kingdom of Cambodia and many other guests. The day before the groundbreaking ceremony, U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price answered questions from reporters in Washington, D.C., and said, "We and countries in the region have expressed concerns about the lack of transparency on the intent, the nature, the scope of this project, as well as the role that the PRC military is playing in its construction and in its post-construction use of the facility."
I don't have a comment on the specific story you referenced, but it is consistent with credible reporting we've seen from the PRC that the PRC is engaged in a significant ongoing construction project at Ream Naval Base. As we've said, an exclusive PRC military presence at Ream could threaten Cambodia's autonomy and undermine regional security as well. We and countries in the region have expressed concerns about the lack of transparency on the intent, the nature, the scope of this project, as well as the role of the PRC military is playing in its construction and in its post-construction use of the facility.
Stephanie Arzate, a spokesperson for the U.S. Embassy in Phnom Penh, told EAC News on Wednesday, 8th June, "As we have said, an exclusive PRC military presence at Ream could threaten Cambodia's autonomy and undermine regional security." The case of the Modernization Center of the Ream Naval Base seems to have especially rekindled the interest of the United States, despite the fact that Prime Minister Hun Sen has repeatedly allowed the military attachments of other countries to visit the Ream Naval Base. There is still much suspicion from the Western superpower and its allies. According to an article published by the Sydney Morning Herald on Tuesday, 7th June, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also recently expressed concern over the fresh claims that China is building a naval facility in Cambodia for the use of its military forces, calling on Beijing to be transparent about its intent for the base. Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony construction project for dry dock, pier, and slipway rehabilitation in the Modernization Center of Ream Naval Base on Wednesday, 8th June, the Minister of National Defense, Deputy Prime Minister Thia Ban, denied all allegations and said that the construction taking place at the Ream Naval Base is just to modernize the base within the sovereignty of Cambodia and will not be the exclusive property of China. Cambodia has the right to manage any use or development of the base, while the Chinese government has provided grant support for these developments. The Cambodian defense minister also stated, "On this occasion, there are some diplomats and military attachés who previously had the opportunity to come here to see for themselves that the Ream Naval Base has nothing except for a small, shallow harbor with a water depth of 7 meters, which we need to restore and fix, and in its current state, the Cambodian ship sent for repairs cannot dock when it returns, and will have to anchor at sea. That is why we want a new port for the ship to dock." During a telephone conversation between the Cambodian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, and the newly appointed Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong on Tuesday, 7th June, the Cambodian Foreign Minister denied all allegations being made about the Ream Naval Base, saying there was no basis in the latest news being published by some international media. Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn reaffirmed to the new Australian Foreign Minister that Cambodia firmly adheres to its constitution, which does not allow the base or presence of any foreign troops on Cambodian territory, and stated that the improvement of the Ream Naval Base is designed to strengthen the capacity of the Cambodian Navy to defend its maritime integrity and combat maritime crime. In early June 2021, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman paid a 2-hour visit to Cambodia, where she also met with Prime Minister Hun Sen. During the meeting, she requested the Prime Minister to allow the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff to visit the Ream Naval Base in Sihanoukville. Just one day after her request, the Cambodian Ministry of Defense announced that it would allow the U.S. Embassy in Cambodia to inspect the Ream Naval Base. During that same time, the U.S. Defense and Army Attaché Colonel Marcus Ferrara was welcomed on his visit to the Ream Naval Base in cooperation with the Cambodian authorities. Prime Minister Hun Sen has previously stated that any country in the world would be welcome to use the military base, including the United States, France, Canada, India, Britain, Japan, and Australia, and free to participate in joint exercises with the Royal Cambodian Navy. The Prime Minister also added that Cambodia welcomes all assistance offered from other countries to build local offices and develop ports. In a press conference held on Wednesday morning, the Chinese ambassador to Cambodia, Wang Wentian, said that the development of the Ream Naval Base in Sihanoukville acts as a model for cooperation between Cambodia and China with respect to Cambodian law, the People's Republic of China, and also international law. He said this project is for the benefit of the two countries' relations, and that any accusation made about China wanting to place a military base in Cambodia is foolish and wrong. He said, "Speak honestly. Which country has an army abroad? Not China. And the one who is trying to increase their influence, prestige, and power is not China. So no matter how much pressure and challenges we face in the future, both countries will overcome those obstacles to protect their interests." The Chinese ambassador further stated that China does not want to rule over any country and has its own traditional culture of governing its own country and its own people properly, which is enough. Defense Minister Thia Ban also told reporters at the groundbreaking ceremony this morning that the allegations made by the U.S. against Cambodia were repetitive and without any evidence related to the Ream Naval Base. He said there are two reasons why the West sees Cambodia in a negative light, because Cambodia becomes more prosperous and because their influence is weakened in the region as well as in Cambodia. The Deputy Prime Minister said, "It must be understood that this is the sovereignty of Cambodia. The management, use, or any development within the Ream Naval Base is the responsibility of the Kingdom of Cambodia. Their story is non-stop. They are creating a series of provocations. There is nothing new at all." The construction project for a new dry dock, pier, and slipway rehabilitation in the Modernization Center of the Ream Naval Base is under grant aid provided by the People's Republic of China to the Cambodian Navy. The stated purpose of this project is to rehabilitate the existing naval base to a fort camp with a headquarters building, an all-purpose building, to build and expand one hospital, build a new dry dock and slipway rehabilitation center, build 2 other docks, and restore the existing dams where the water depth is still shallow. Darshana Gauchen, EAC News.
The Chinese ambassador to Cambodia, Wang Wingting, has said that China has its own traditions and culture and does not want to rule over any other country, as good leadership of its own country and the people is enough for the country's ambitions. He made this statement while speaking to reporters after attending the groundsbreaking ceremony for the ship repair workshop and restoration port of the Ream Naval Base on Wednesday morning. Ambassador Wang Wingtan said on development of the Ream Naval Base in Sihanoukville acts as a model for cooperation between Cambodia and China, with respect to Cambodian law, the People's Republic of China, and also international law. He said this project is for the benefit of two countries' relations and that any accusation made about China wanting to place a military base in Cambodia is foolish and wrong. He said, "Speak honestly. Which country has an army abroad? Not China. And the one who's trying to increase their influence, prestige and power is not China. So no matter how much pressure and challenges we face in the future, both countries will overcome those obstacles to protect their interests." The Chinese ambassador stated that China does not want to rule over any country and has its own traditional culture of governing its own country and its own people properly, which is enough. He added that China has the same mindset on human destiny, saying that it wants to build a happy world without war together with others. On the 6th of June 2022, the Washington Post posted an article reporting that Cambodia had signed a secret agreement with China that allowed China's military to use the Ream naval base. The Post reported that the United States expressed disappointment when Cambodia demolished a building at its Ream-backed military base. The Cambodian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, dismissed these allegations as baseless on Tuesday the 7th of June and reaffirmed that Cambodia adheres to its constitution, which does not allow for any foreign military base or presence in the country. He emphasised that the upgrade of the Ream naval base was to strengthen the capacity of the Cambodian Navy to protect the maritime integrity and to combat maritime crime. The Minister of National Defence, Ban, has announced his intentions to resume military exercises with the People's Republic of China on a larger scale, after they were forced to be suspended last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. He made this announcement during a groundsbreaking ceremony for the construction of the ship repair workshop and restoration port in Ream Naval Base on Wednesday morning, 8th of June. EAC News reported that Shana Guchen has more.
A joint Cambodian-Chinese military exercise called the Golden Dragon may be resumed, according to Cambodian Defense Minister Ban's announcement. He said, "If it is convenient, we will reorganize the Golden Dragon exercise, which we have already completed 2, 3, or 4 times already." He further continued to say, "Maritime security has always been a constant source of frustration, and something we have conducted once before is the Great Slide involving our seas, where we conduct disaster relief exercises or drills to rescue ships in our seas. We can jointly complete this training exercise to a greater extent together. And if our Ream naval base is developed fast, we may also use this base to carry out important tasks, exercises, joint exercises of land, air, and navy." According to Minister Ban, this Golden Dragon exercise could be more formal, and he told officials of the Ministry of National Defense to be ready to resume exercises when the opportunity is favorable in the future. Cambodia suspended its Golden Dragon exercises with China in 2021 due to the COVID-19 crisis and other natural disasters. Prior to this, Cambodia had organized joint military exercises with China since 2016. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
The Cambodian People's Party has decided to postpone the party's extraordinary Central Committee meeting, which was originally scheduled for early July, to mid-July instead. EAC News reporter Deccan Nin has the story.
The Cabinet of the Central Committee has issued a notice to its members stating that the Standing Committee has decided to postpone the meeting of the Extraordinary Central Committee, originally scheduled for the 9th to 10th July 2022 at the CPP headquarters, to the weekend of 16th to 17th of July 2022 instead. The meeting will take place just weeks after Cambodia held its 5th mandate Commune Sangkat elections on Sunday, 5th of June. A total of 17 parties competed for 11,622 Commune Sangkat seats nationwide from 1,652 communes, and the results released by the NEC revealed that more than 7.3 million went to vote for the election, equivalent to more than 80% of the 9.2 million registered voters. Nekanin, EAC News.
The leaders of Cambodia and India have exchanged congratulatory messages to the occasion of the 7th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Kingdom of Cambodia and the Republic of India. EAC News reporter Darshana Guchen has more.
Prime Minister Hun Sen sent a letter addressed to the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, extending his heartfelt congratulations and best wishes to the Indian Prime Minister, the government, and the people of India for the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations. In the letter dated 27th May 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen wrote, "It is indeed heartwarming to note that since the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1952, our two countries have nurtured a strong and mutually beneficial partnership at all levels, be they at the bilateral, regional, and multilateral level." While reflecting on the bilateral achievements made between Cambodia and India over the past 70 years, he said he is confident that many more cooperation opportunities could be undertaken for the mutual benefit of both countries. The Prime Minister wrote, "As the chair of ASEAN this year, Cambodia is also ready to work with our ASEAN member states and India to reinforce our ASEAN-India strategic partnership." He further added that he looks forward to welcoming the Indian Prime Minister to Cambodia for the ASEAN-India Summit and other related summits in October 2022. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also sent a letter to Prime Minister Hun Sen on 27th May 2022, conveying his warm wishes on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations on behalf of the government and people of India. He wrote, "It is my firm belief that the friendship between India and Cambodia will remain strong and enduring, and we will continue to work together for an even brighter future for the mutual benefit of our people." Prime Minister Modi further affirmed that he looks forward to working with Prime Minister Hun Sen to strengthen India's cooperation within the ASEAN framework. Prime Minister Hun Sen and Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently held an online video meeting on 18th May, where both sides praised the past cooperation between Cambodia and India. During the call, Prime Minister Modi said Cambodia is an important partner in India's policy towards the East, and the minister attached to the Prime Minister, Kao Kim Hoon, confirmed after the meeting that India had stated it would provide a $1 billion loan to Cambodia for the development of a tripartite expressway for India to Myanmar and Thailand, also connecting Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos. Cambodia and India first established diplomatic relations on 30th May 1956. The Cambodian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Prak Sakhon, and Indian Minister for External Affairs, Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar, also exchanged letters of congratulation on the occasion of this anniversary. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sakhon, has reported that the Taste of Angkor cookbook has won 2 Gourmet World Cookbook Awards in 2022. The cookbook was presented to Umea Food Symposium in Sweden on the 2nd and the 5th of June. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has further details.
The 2 awards the Taste of Angkor won were Best Asian Cuisine Book and Heads of State Food Regarding, the foreword written by Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sakhon. The Deputy Prime Minister stated that another Cambodian cookbook titled The Culinary Art of Cambodia also won the special award of the jury at the same event. The Taste of Angkor cookbook was published by the Cambodian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation as part of its food and cultural diplomacy. The cookbook previously won the Best Asian Cookbook Award at the Gourmet World Cookbook Awards of 2021. The Minister of Foreign Affairs first unveiled the cookbook on the 18th of January 2021, containing 38 recipes of Khmer dishes and desserts with detailed and easy-to-follow instructions, including substitutions for Khmer ingredients that may be hard to source abroad. Dekanin, EEC News.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Democratic-led US House of Representatives Selected Committee will attempt to reserve Republican efforts to downplay or deny the violence of the Trump loyalists who stormed the Capitol in a failed bid to prevent Joe Biden from becoming president on January 6, 2021. With 5 months to go until November 8th midterm elections that will determine which party controls Congress for the next 2 years.
A police officer hurt by Donald Trump's supporters trying to overturn his election defeat and a filmmaker who recorded some leaders of the U.S. Capitol riot will be among the first witnesses when hearings into the assault begin on Thursday, organizers say. The panel of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans has spent much of the past year investigating the events preceding and driving the attack by thousands of Trump loyalists who stormed the building in a failed bid to prevent Congress from formally certifying his 2020 election loss to President Joe Biden. The committee said in a statement the hearings would provide the American people a summary of its findings about the coordinated, multi-step effort to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and prevent the transfer of power. The committee has not yet said what witnesses it will call at its Thursday's hearing. Rosenberg said that while much of the information known about the committee's work has come from legal documents filed by the Department of Justice as it prosecutes suspects, there are still overreaching questions that remain unanswered. One of the big questions is how much of the federal government, not just the people around the president and the congressional allies, how wide was the conspiracy, and what does that mean? Right, if we had departments and agencies and people in the Defense Department and the Department of Homeland Security and other departments that were actively involved in the conspiracy, as well as dozens of members of Congress potentially. I mean, this is something that really makes this unlike Watergate in that regard, is that the conspiracy appears to be far more vast and the goal of the conspiracy far more serious and grave than what they were trying to achieve, he said. The panel and its dozens of investigators have conducted more than 1,000 depositions and interviews and collected more than 140,000 documents. 4 people died the day of the attack, 1 fatally shot by police and the others of natural causes. More than 100 police officers were injured and 1 died the next day. 4 officers later died by suicide. The Capitol sustained millions of dollars in damage. Trump, who is publicly flirting with another White House run in 2024, has denied wrongdoing and accused the committee of engaging in a political attack. He has leveled harsh criticism, particularly at Representative Liz Cheney, the panel's Republican vice chairperson, as she runs for re-election. But Rosenberg said he feels the committee has behaved appropriately. I think they're treating this in a manner where they're treating it with the appropriate level of gravity for what happened. This is an unprecedented effort to overthrow the outcome of a legitimate election in the United States that was guided by the sitting president and his allies in Congress, he said. Some Republicans condemned Trump in the first days after the attack, but since then, almost all have shifted their tone. Republican members of Congress have refused to cooperate and disputed accounts of the riot, despite thousands of photographs and videos. Thursday's hearing at 8 p.m. EST is a prime-time spot intended to capture the attention of as many Americans as possible. ABC and CBS News programming schedules show that networks plan to carry Thursday's hearing live. 5 more hearings are expected in the next 2 weeks.
You're filming? You're just to hell with this?
The Russian army said on Monday it is going to seize Severodonetsk, a city in Donetsk region, with the pressure placed on the Ukraine side, which saw the critical situation in northern Donetsk city, and Ukrainian President Zelensky says heroic defense on Donbass ongoing. Major General Igor Konashenkov, spokesman for the Russian Military of Defense, said on Monday's daily briefing that the Russian army knocked down on the military facility in Ukraine's Kharkov region that was used to repair armed vehicles. In the meantime, Russia also destroyed Ukrainian fighter jets and drones in the regions of Kharkov, Zaporizhzhia, and Donetsk, as the Russian troops are going to take full control of Zavashkesh and its surrounding areas on Donetsk region. An official of the Donetsk city said that Ukrainian forces had continued their strikes on the city on Monday with a spate of missiles and rocket shells, which damaged a hospital, several buildings and infrastructure facilities in the city. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Monday said that Russia is planning to capture Zaporizhzhia, a major city in southern Ukraine. He also added that the situation in northern Donetsk remained critical as larger and stronger Russian troops stationed there. Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, Popasna remain the most difficult places, Zelensky said on a video statement on Tuesday evening. The situation on the front line hasn't changed much over the last 24 hours, he said, adding the Russian troops were bringing in new reinforcements towards Donbass and Kherson. The Ukrainian side said that the same day the Russian Black Sea Fleet has retreated to a place some 100 kilometers away from the Ukrainian coast, losing full control of the northern Black Sea. Ukrainian prosecutors say that they have registered more than 12,000 alleged war crimes involving more than 600 suspects since the Kremlin started the offense on February the 24th. Zelensky also claimed that more than 31,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in Ukraine since the start of the war, with Russia losing almost 300 lives every day. Reuters could not vary these figures. Since being pushed back from Kyiv and Kharkiv, Russia has focused on the Ukrainian region known as Donbass, comprised the Luhansk and Donetsk provinces and closest to the Russian border. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Monday said the West decides to provide Ukraine with long-range strike weapons, Russia will act to remove the threat. He said that Ukraine is not willing to hold talks with Russia now, and Russia, the Foreign Minister added, could fully believe that such a move by Ukraine's side is a result of the following order of the Western leaders. Also on Monday, the Russian Foreign Minister announced that additional 61 US citizens have been barred from entering Russia in response to the sanctions repeatedly imposed by the United States. US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm are among those blacklisted. The new restrictions have made longer the list of Americans banned from entering Russia, on which were 963 names when the Russian Foreign Minister released it on May 21st, including US President Joe Biden. To help Ukraine with the grain shipment, the Belarusian government said on Monday that Ukraine could ship its grain via Belarus, but the Ukrainian government did not agree on such a proposal the same day, saying the anti-ship system provided by Western countries is the only secured way to unblock Ukrainian ports and export grain to other countries. Taiwan's top trade negotiator appealed to the United States on Tuesday the 7th of June not to forget the island wants a free trade deal, but understands this will not happen immediately as it is willing to make another agreements first as building blocks.
Taiwan and the United States last week announced the new U.S.-Taiwan Initiative on 21st Century Trade, which envisages new trade talks. John Deng, who goes to Washington at the end of the month for talks with senior U.S. officials, told Reuters in an interview that ultimately what they wanted was a free trade agreement, even if the U.S. government has not publicly said such a deal is on the cards. Taiwan has long campaigned for such a deal, in what would be a strong show of support for the Chinese-claimed island, in the face of unrelenting diplomatic and military pressure from Beijing, and says it is a reliable partner with shared democratic values. Taiwan also wants to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership and applied to do so in September. China has also applied and says it opposes Taiwan joining. Deng said Taiwan would have to wait for Britain's more advanced application to be approved first before member states Canada, Australia, Brunei, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam would consider Taiwan. But he said he did not think the CPTPP should have to follow the World Trade Organization model, whereby both Taiwan and China joined at the same time to avoid any potentially thorny political issues favoring either party. While Taiwan's main opposition party, the Kuomintang, says it is wrong to label Taiwan's main opposition party as being pro-China, as it has always been pro-US, and is dedicated to defending the island, though also to talking to Beijing, its chairman said in Washington. The KMT ruled China until fleeing to Taiwan in 1949 after losing a civil war to the communists. It has traditionally favored close ties with Beijing, which has increasingly set it at odds with most Taiwanese, who feel little in common with autocratic China. The KMT badly lost presidential and parliamentary elections in 2020, having failed to shake accusations from the governing Democratic Progressive Party it would sell out Taiwan to Beijing. Speaking late Monday, Taipei time, at the Brookings Institution during a visit to Washington, KMT Chairman Eric Chu decried those who called them pro-China. "We are mislabeled by some people. Some media say we are a pro-China party. It's totally wrong. We are a pro-US party forever," he said, speaking in English. Taiwan needs to have strong defenses, added Chu, who assumed his current role in September on a promise to revitalize party fortunes. "If you want peace, you have to prepare for war. Self-defense is the number one for peace and stability." He reiterated the party's support for engagement with China, which claims Taiwan as its own territory to ensure stability. Beijing has ramped up its military activities near Taiwan over the past 2 years or so and refused to speak to Tsai, who it views as a separatist. Tsai says they want talks with Beijing, but as equals, and that only Taiwan's people can decide their own future. Chu said Taiwan can help the West better understand China and be a model for its giant neighbor. "Taiwan can have democracy, why not China someday? We have to wait for this to happen, but we need Taiwan as a model," he said.
Now, let's have a look at the weather and what you can expect for tomorrow. And finally, World Oceans Day on the 8th of June is an international event to raise awareness on the impact of human actions on oceans. Many countries are doing their part to help clean and restore the oceans in its former glory.
International marine conservation organizations have retrieved 23.5 tons of waste, including 25 large fish farm nets and equipment, from the depths of the sea around the Greek Ionian island of Ithaca by volunteer divers from the United Kingdom, Netherlands, Lebanon, Hungary, and Greece in the last 2 weeks. Abandoned nets or ghost nets are named as such because they appear almost invisible underwater and trap and kill marine animals every year. Divers dug out the long, heavy nets from beneath the sand on the seabed. A barge with a crane lifted the nets to the surface and placed them into containers. They will be taken for recycling by textile company Aquafil and turned into yarn used to make products such as clothing and carpets. Some 640,000 tons of fishing gear is lost or abandoned annually in seas and oceans, Healthy Seas said in a statement. That plastic waste harms sea life and leaves microplastics in the water that end up in the food chain. In Rio de Janeiro, Guanabara Bay, the lack of fish due to high levels of water pollution has driven fishermen to go from fishing to cleaning the ocean. The project involves 25 fishermen families and is promoted by Ogaia, an Italian enterprise dedicated to cleaning oceans, and the Brazilian environmental organization's BV Rio Institute. Circular economy expert at BV Rio, Pedro Mendes, told Reuters that besides having an environmental impact, the project also helps local fishermen who have seen their trade affected by the polluted waters. Through this initiative, for 2 days of work, the fishermen are paid above the minimum wage. It is expected to last 12 months, during which organizers hope 100 tons of trash will be collected. When a team of scientists listened to an audio clip recorded underwater of islands in central Indonesia recently, they heard lots of clicking sounds. It was the sound of a lively coral reef, said the lead researcher of a study that is using hundreds of such audio clips to train a computer program to track the health of a coral reef by listening to it. By analyzing audio clips recorded by underwater microphones or hydrophones placed on the reef, researchers used the so-called passive acoustic monitoring method to understand the condition of the reef. Williams and a team of scientists have trained the computer algorithm to read details that are inaudible to human ears. The artificial intelligence system parses data points like frequency and loudness of the sound from the audio clips and is able to determine with at least 92% accuracy whether the reef is healthy or degraded, according to the teen study published in a Ecological Indicators journal. While coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, they support more than 25% of marine biodiversity, including turtles, fish, and lobsters, making them fertile ground for global fishing industries. A report released by the Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network in October 2021 said 14% of the world's coral on reefs was already lost between 2009 and 2018, equal to about 11,700 square kilometers, an area 2.5 times the size of Grand Canyon National Park. The majority of the loss was caused by coral bleaching, a phenomenon that happens when corals expel the colorful algae living in their tissues under stress from warmer water. The scientists hope with this new AI system, they can help conservation groups around the world monitor reef health more efficiently. Normally, a healthy coral reef has a complex crackling campfire-like sound due to the living creatures on the reef, while a degraded reef is often more desolate, Williams said. In their next step, the researchers hope to collect recordings from the reefs in Mexico, Australia, and the Virgin Islands in a bid to help monitor the progress of local coral restoration projects.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup here on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, check our website eacnews.asia or search EAC News on Telegram, Smart TV or your favourite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.